Dan apapun inilah yang akan kita bawakan juga ya menerus sampai pagi yang kita siarkan secara langsung. Di awal pagi tadi kita telah pun memberikan baik dengan satu wawancara kita secara virtual yang akan diperbincangkan
hari ini bersama dengan Pesuruhjaya Tinggi British di negara Brunei Darussalam iaitu His Excellency Mr. John Virgo, dan juga kita ada Legislative Council Speaker dan juga President of Brunei Chevening Alumni iaitu Yang Berhormat Khairunisa Azhari, dan sudah berada di secara virtual ketika ini. Good morning, Assalamualaikum keduanya. Hello.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning, His Excellency, Your Excellency. I'm a bit nervous now. I'm so nervous interviewing like two, ada Yang Berhormat dan juga ada His Excellency. Anyway, so we want to talk about the Chevening Scholarship and also the climate change, the climate change conference. So can we talk about the Chevening Scholarship first?
Fantastic. Yeah, I'd love to, and thank you very much for the opportunity. So the first thing to say, since I've been in Brunei, I'm so pleased to meet so many Bruneians who've studied in the UK. Of course, the UK is one of the top destinations for students around the world, but we're so happy that so many Bruneians still continue to choose to study in the UK. Chevening is the UK government's scholarship for international students. It's been running for nearly 4 decades now, so since the early 1980s. And as you say, the Chevening Scholarship, it's a fully funded scholarship to study full-time for a master's degree for 1 year in the UK. Now, the criteria are you have to have an undergraduate degree.
Yes.
And you have to have at least 2 years working experience. But I just, this is open to Bruneians, and I really encourage people who've got those qualifications, who have got the passion, the vision and the skills to shape a better world. If you meet those criteria, then we want to hear from you.
So that's how you pronounce it. It's Chevening, not Chevening. I'm sorry. Anyway, so thank you so much, Your Excellency. Now, it sounds like a great opportunity for any Bruneian who's looking to further their studies after the undergraduate degree. Now, how and when they should apply this?
So we're pretty close to the deadline for applications for next year. The deadline is the 2nd of November, that's next Tuesday. So people are going to need to get a wiggle on. You need to visit www.chevening.org to fill in the application. The links are on my Instagram, that's @british.hc.bn. So I just really encourage people to apply
ada gangguan sedikit ni bersama dengan Your Excellency. Okey, seperti apa yang dikatakan oleh Pesuruhjaya Tinggi ketika tadi ialah boleh didapati linknya di Instagram British High Embassy iaitu di @british.hc.bn, dan closing date-nya ialah pada 2 November 8 PM. Tetapi preparation itu sememangnya amat diperlukan. Jadi kepada bis kita yang ingin untuk memuat turun ataupun untuk memenuhi atau mengisikan borang-borang aplikasinya, bis kita dapat melayari laman webnya di www.chevening.org. Jadi kita akan berpindah pula soalan kepada Yang Berhormat Khairunisa. Bagi Yang Berhormat Khairunisa, what was your experience kerana menjadi scholarship, sekolah bagi Chevening ini? Silakan jika dapat dikongsikan pengalamannya.
Alhamdulillah, sebelum itu mengucapkan terima kasih juga kepada pihak RTB dan juga Rampai Pagi kerana memberi peluang kepada saya sendiri dan juga His Excellency John Virgo untuk berkongsi maklumat dan juga pengalaman juga. I also would like to ask that if any candidates are interested to apply, feel free to reach out to me via Twitter. I'll be more than happy to share the application process and to give you some tips on how to apply. So going back to your question just now about my experience, I would have to say it was truly enriching. So the scholarship officers were truly attentive to our well-being and welfare in the UK. What was interesting was the programs that they offered. We did not just enjoy our academic experience, but there were also a lot of social-cultural events and volunteer work to participate in. We were invited to attend large gatherings with all the scholars at the start and end of the year. And in between, we also had sessions with ASEAN Chevening scholars. I took the opportunity to join field trips to see various locations in the UK, and also volunteered with other scholars from different universities and expanded my network, which was, I think it's the most crucial, which was the most valuable thing about Chevening Scholarship is the network. In fact, I also received a certificate for volunteering from Chevening in a wonderful ceremony where I was able to meet other fantastic scholars who are also doing so much for their communities. It's an experience that I would not trade for anything else. So much value and so much wealth of knowledge I've gained throughout my experience.
Thank you so much, Yang Berhormat. And also, we go back to explore more about this Chevening Scholarship and also the Chevening Alumni. Can you explain more about that? Maybe, Your Excellency?
Sure. So the alumni aspect is so important, as YB Kaironisa was saying. We have 50,000 alumni now around the world. So if you get a Chevening Scholarship, you're joining this fantastic network of people around the world, working in government, in politics, in business, in civil society or the media, environmental organizations, all sorts of exciting roles. I'm really pleased that the Chevening alumni in Brunei are all doing such fantastic work in their various areas. Of course, YB Kaironisa is a fantastic example of that. And I also discovered that 2 of the other foreign ambassadors in Brunei are Chevening scholars, Chevening alumni. So the Omani ambassador and His Excellency Timor-Leste ambassador. So we have lots of fantastic alumni, and I think the chance to be part of that network is a really important part of the scheme.
Do you want to add anything else, Yang Berhormat Khairunisa?
Maybe I would just like to reiterate what His Excellency has shared. One of the wonderful things about coming back after the scholarship is we get to mingle with our alumni in Brunei as well. And we've done several community work, and also one of our active scholars have been doing yearly dialogue sessions, not just to promote Chevening Scholarship itself, but also to enable our scholars to share our expertise and also create a platform for dialogue amongst young people. So I think this is also a very important aspect, which is to give back to the community.
So now we wrap up about the Chevening Scholarship. Now we move on to another topic, which is the Climate Change Conference. We understand that UK will be hosting the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Glasgow on 31st October until 12th November. So, His Excellency, can you tell us a little bit about it and what this conference is all about?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for the chance to talk about this, because it's such an important conference. So in just 4 days' time, on Sunday, delegates will be arriving in Glasgow in Scotland for the United Nations Climate Change Conference. That's known as COP26. Should have happened last year. It got postponed for COVID, as you can imagine. And we've gone to every length to make this a COVID-safe event. We're really looking forward to seeing the Bruneian delegation in Scotland, led by senior ministers. The whole conference takes place over 2 weeks. It will start with a leaders segment, 2 days of leaders. We're expecting over 120 world leaders. And then, as well as all the talks, which will be looking at all the key issues around the science, around adaptation, around moving away from coal and hydrocarbons, and protecting our forests, and all those really important issues. There'll also be lots of youth groups and civil society, businesses, artists, academics in Glasgow, running exhibitions and performances, workshops and talks. So it's going to be a really exciting couple of weeks, but also a really important couple of weeks, because this is the moment when countries need to come together to increase their actions to tackle climate change. The UK is the president of COP this year, so that's why it's happening in Glasgow, and it's our role to sort of steer the conference through to agreement between all the countries.
And this is a global event, and we're talking about the global issue. Now, we see today's impact of climate change with unpredictable weather and also increasing temperatures. So why is this COP26 so important?
Yeah, so your viewers will have heard a lot about climate change, and we can see some of the disruption to the weather that's already sadly happening. There was a really important report just a few weeks ago by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and it said that the world is dangerously close to running out of time to tackle climate change. So that's why this conference is so important. 6 years ago at the Paris Climate Conference, the world agreed that we must keep global temperature rise below no more than 2 degrees and 1.5 degrees if possible. We are already at 1.2 degrees, so we're already more than halfway there. And you can already see the devastating impacts of climate change. As you said, extreme weather events is one of those. So the world really needs to come together in Glasgow. We have made progress. We've got most of the major economies around the world are now committed to what we call net zero emissions, so phasing out carbon emissions by the middle of the century. And we're seeing renewables being rolled out around the world, coal-fired power stations being closed down. But there's a lot more that needs to be done. We need to act now, and Glasgow is an opportunity for countries to step up that level of action.
So are there any countries that have made changes already to the climate change ahead of COP26? And if you can provide us with any examples?
Definitely. So there are some really positive things happening around the world. So, for instance, the UK has already cut our carbon emissions since 1990 by 44%, and we've done that while growing the economy. So there's no trade-off here between tackling climate change and economic growth. We've now committed in the last year to reach a 68% cut by 2030. And we've got lots of great commitments coming in from around the world. So the UK, Korea, Japan, China, they've all agreed to stop funding new fossil fuel power stations. A lot of countries are committing to net zero by mid-century. That includes the US and China, but also countries like Pakistan, Philippines, Malaysia. Malaysia is a really good example. It's just recently announced it's going to bring in a carbon pricing scheme, and that it will no longer build any new coal-fired power plants. So there are some great examples of countries starting to come up to the plate with these new commitments and actions.
So what do you think about what are your thoughts about Brunei's perception towards climate change?
So Southeast Asia is such an important part of this. Southeast Asia is home to something like 15% of the world's forests and some of the most biodiverse environments, and of course in Brunei, no more so than in Brunei, with the amazing jungle that we have here. Unfortunately, Southeast Asia is also one of the world's major deforestation hotspots, so we're losing that forest in other countries around the region, and 40% of the region's biodiversity may vanish. I feel so lucky to be in Brunei Darussalam, where you can see how the environment in Southeast Asia used to be and should be. And we're surrounded by this amazing jungle. And Brunei has such a great record for preserving the forests. I think 72% of the forest still intact. On the other hand, it's not all good news, because Brunei is one of the top 10 emitters of greenhouse gases on a per capita basis. So each Bruneian, on average, is emitting 3 times as much people in Singapore or Malaysia. And Southeast Asia is also really vulnerable to climate change. So it's one of the regions that could be worst affected by extreme weather, by sea level rise. We already see flooding in Brunei Darussalam, for example. crop failures, disease spreading, all of these effects of climate change. So Southeast Asia plays a really important role. The UK and Brunei have been working together really closely on climate change, particularly Brunei's role as ASEAN chair. It's great Brunei has been championing action on climate change. And of course, this week, with the Leaders Summit, just coming a few days before COP, is a really important opportunity to build momentum ahead of COP.
Can I just add one more thing? So aside from everything His Excellency have shared, we also have the Brunei Darussalam National Climate Change Policy, which I think is also a very positive step, because we're not just creating a policy from the government perspective, but it's also a document that was produced taking into consideration feedback and input from the community, from the private sector. This is something that's definitely new for Brunei. So it's very encouraging that the government is working very, very closely with different stakeholders, especially the community, to establish policy moving forward on how to tackle climate change issues in Brunei.
That's good to know. Now, anyway, Your Excellency, we are so happy and blessed that you enjoyed the jungles in Brunei, hutan-hutan, flora dan fauna dan sebagainya. But the thing is, now, just one final question from us, from Rampai Pagi, Your Excellency, and also mungkin kepada Khairunisa juga, yang berhormat Khairunisa. So, what is the UK hoping to achieve at the conference next week? And for nanti tu soalan kepada yang berhormat dulu, mungkin kepada Your Excellency dulu. Your Excellency, yes, your hope.
Sure, thank you, and So I know that all this talk about weather disasters and so on can be quite depressing, but the Prime Minister, my Prime Minister Boris Johnson, has said that COP26 can be a turning point for humanity. And what we need to get there is we need all countries to come together. And even the countries that have already made commitments and pledges, everybody needs to come together to take more action, increase that level of ambition. Overall, across the world, you need the world to halve its carbon emissions by 2030. And some countries will need to do more than others, of course. But we do know that every country will need to do more. And that means committing to net zero by mid-century. And we know that there are pathways that can get us there. But it also means more action in the short term. And the Prime Minister has said that the priorities are coal, cars, trees and cash. Coal means we need to stop building coal-fired power stations, and we need to close the ones that are already there, because coal is the biggest pollutant. We know that. Cars, we need to move to electric vehicles as soon as we can, and Brunei has some great targets on moving to electric vehicles. Trees is about stopping deforestation, and I think the world can take a great example from Brunei in the way that you protected your forest here. And then cash, this is about us, the richer countries in the world, coming up with the money to support poorer countries, take the actions that they need to take, and also protect themselves against the changes that are happening. So I know it's a big ask, but I'm really confident we can get there if all countries come together. Really looking forward to welcoming our Bruneian friends to COP. I'm sure YB would like to add something to that.
Mungkin YB ingin menambah sedikit
So for Brunei's context, we're also looking at nature-based solution because this has been shared by Yang Berhormat Dato' Suhaimi, the Minister of Development, in recent speeches, how the government's focus will be towards low-carbon solutions and nature-based solutions as well. This is where Brunei can really play a big role in terms of, because these are also highlighted in the 10 strategies of the BNCCP as well as our Green Protocol. So at the end of the day, it's really about willpower, not just from the government side, but also the community as well to do their part in achieving this target.
Terima kasih YB dan juga His Excellency. And we were informed that you actually provided us with one video. What is it all about?
So that's right. So we have a video from Sir David Attenborough. I'm sure everybody's heard of Sir David. So we're going to play a short version of this video. If you want to see the full version, which is really fantastic, it will be available on my Instagram. So that's @British Sir David Attenborough started his career in Southeast Asia, right here in Borneo. He has very fond memories of traveling here in the 1950s and particularly seeing his first orangutan. And this is his message to Southeast Asia. So I'll leave you with the video. Terima kasih. Selamat pagi semua.
Yeah. Right. Kita ucapkan ribuan terima kasih, and thank you so much. Such a pleasure to have both of you. Dan insyaAllah kita akan jumpa lagi. Thank you so much. See you again.
Thank you. Sampai jumpa lagi.